This is Willpower.
All right, Willpower Podcast listeners, I'm here with Wayne Barkus, and I just want to open the show because I think there's a lot of like hot topic moments that we will have today. I don't want to predict the future, but I want to share with you all this amazing, I want to call you a men's coach, but really like the beauty is I wrote this down, like not just a leader of men, but someone who's a cultural interpreter for the men's psyche in a really challenging space that we're in the world right now. And slowly but surely, I've been getting to know you, and you've really been getting to know me. And I knew I had to bring you on the show, both for men who are listening and women who are coming to me and sharing with me their stories about how their interrelations with men are challenged. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that kind of context of how you see me. That's cool.
Yeah. I love
Grateful
it.
to be here and just to open up this conversation with your audience, because I think it's really an important one.
Yeah, I open the show and want you to share with you I know how freely you speak and how much you lead yourself, and just speaking so listeners understand maybe one of the most challenging things in your life or a dark night of the soul that you've been through that's informing all the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, it was such a blessing. 10 years ago, I got divorced, and I was married for 11 years, together for 14. And so it was really like the biggest relationship of my life. And I also had two daughters, 1 and 4 at the time of the divorce. So for me, it wasn't just an annihilation of everything that I knew. It was really, there was something being asked of me that was really deep, and I'm going to say almost like ancient, where I had the choice to either answer the call or just like dissolve into oblivion. And I say that being the opportunity was there for me to show up as a father, a single father, in a magnitude that I had no idea what was required of me. But I was up for the task, but I knew that I needed like an incredible amount of support, incredible amount of healing, a incredible amount of knowledge and information that wasn't bestowed to me. So
Yeah.
it was the initiation of my life. And to just take the fast forward all the way to be here, like in downtown Austin, having this conversation with you, is, there's not many days where I don't breathe in like, whoo, I made it to the other side, and it's possible, and it's so worth it. It's so epic. It's such a beautiful ride, but it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. And do you remember, like in those days, the first 1 or 2 pieces of the puzzle you started to put together to say, okay, I'm like a little, maybe you were a little white knuckling and you're like, where do I start? And like, what were those first couple of pieces of the puzzle?
That's a great question. I mean, I remember sitting in my living room, and I had, I guess I would say, the epitome of the suburb dream. I was living in Illinois at that time, and I had built a home from scratch. I've been in construction for 30 years, so I poured love and labor and hours and detail. And every single corner and nook of that cranny of that home was perfect. And I remember sitting in the front room and feeling into the loss of everything. And there was like a relief that came with it. And then there was a whisper, and it was like the first time I had ever really like kind of slowed down and sat in the emptiness of my own home without having to do a task or do something or renovating this and it quietly said, who the fuck am I? And I looked around, and it was like grasping with the idea that everything that I had built, everything that I had defined myself to be was vanishing. And there was a big mirror about 15 feet, and I could see myself in the mirror. And as I was asking the question, I was just like kind of being reflected back. I don't know. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm going to be without my things, without my stuff, without my big safety blanket. And that moment really set me on a quest of who is this man underneath all of this beautiful appearance that I no longer have.
Yeah.
And that was like the tipping point for me to start doing some self-reflection. And admittedly, I got right back into all of my old bad habits because the process for like the ego is to really kind of cling to the familiar. And so I had to go a little bit deeper. I had to crack even a little bit harder. I had to get even darker. And that showed up in relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I entered into a new relationship immediately after my divorce, didn't waste any time whatsoever, just moved right on. And the thing showed up. And she was able to reflect it back to me in a way that she was able to show me my pattern of running and hiding and collapsing. And she was just really calling up like honest, transparent truth, which I hadn't actually had in any relationship up until that point, Kristin. And I was 37 years old. So it was like the first time that I had this opportunity to be in a little bit of an emotional, mature dynamic. But my nervous system framework was just an immature boy. And she was revealing that to me in the kindest, most loving way possible, and just left it there. Like, I'm going to show this to you, and what you do with it is up to you. And what you do with it is also going to dictate the direction of our relationship ultimately.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the people have said this to me in the past and I just wonder what your take is on it. And I do want to talk a bit about like the boy, prince, king thing as well. But just this, that men tend to, like, men's emotional processing happens through women. And again, I'm talking, perhaps it's masculine and feminine. I'm talking specifically, of course, in like a structure that's not pretty fluid, but with masculine and feminine energy, that men, there's this notion that men do a lot of their emotional processing through their females in their life. Do you feel like thumbs up or down on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
maybe it feels like obvious to people, but I don't think I put two and two together that like, oh, well, all men aren't. It's like we're in conscious Austin. It's like all men aren't really getting together and displaying that. And also because I'm a woman, I don't think what it's like to live in a male body, and like this concept in the last year that's really come to my awareness, which is like, what is holding the frame for female energy, for the feminine energy. And I think there's a part of me, it's not about my details, but like, that has been trying for a very long part of my life to hold the fucking frame. By the way, probably not my job.
Right.
In some way, you know?
Yeah. And yet there's, I imagine some sense of responsibility because you have the tools, you have the language, you have the wherewithal to direct. And so with that, I say that women are the catalyst, but they're not the actual initiation. And so in my world, in my field in Austin, I hang out with initiated men, and we're able to hold the range and the depth of our emotions and what we're experiencing in an incredible way. And if it needs to be met within the container of men that I'm with, we'll meet it. We'll go there. And that's so that we can show up to our relationships with our partners and with our families in a really good way. We all know, and we all have experienced the nurturing and the mothering of a partner. And it's beautiful. And if it's condensed down into just like 10% of the relationship, I think it's healthy to be nurtured in a really good way. That's why we're attracted to the feminine, because most men haven't developed the bandwidth to nurture ourselves. And so we outsource it. But for a healthy man, he's able to go and reach out to his brothers. I have men that I reach out to constantly. If I'm in the depths and I have something really heavy, especially grief, things that I've experienced with my family, my parents are kind of at the last stage of their life. And sometimes it just naturally gets heavy. My friends are on the phone. They're just holding space for me. Yeah. And we're not like, talking about sports or avoiding it. We're going right into that depth of that place, which is beautiful. Yeah.
And so for someone who's listening and thinking and hearing this word, the initiation, and it's not quite landing for them, can you unpack a little of that, maybe as tied to the Prince King, or initiation across the board?
Yeah,
Good luck with that question.
It's interesting because initiation, I think, is the most important work in masculinity across the board. And this initiation is the developmental transition for a man where he replaces avoidance with radical responsibility. He replaces emotional suppression with emotional literacy, and he'll replace reaction with leadership. It's like the shift from I'm in reaction to I'm going to show up. And ultimately in his psyche and in his frame, it's when the boy like stops operating the show and the man finally breathes. Mm-hmm. So there's an ability for this man to be born and recognize his patterns and be steady, to be open, to be honest without collapsing into shame. Mm-hmm. So that initiatory piece is completely missing, at least from Western culture. Mm-hmm. And when I went on my journey, I didn't know anything about initiation or the context of it. What I'm able to look back at and recognize is that from ages 14 to 17, my dad taught me how to survive. He showed me trades, carpentry, painting, electric, plumbing. He showed me like all the basics and trusted that whatever I would gravitate to, these would be good tools in my tool belt for life. And my mom, she taught me how to nurture, but not in a healthy way. It was like suffocating. She didn't really do a great job because she wasn't really balanced. She experienced bipolar at a very young age. And so I got to witness her emotional range as chaotic. Mm-hmm. And what that imprinted in me is that women are chaotic, and that's okay. And that's just, so I found myself attracted to chaos everywhere I went, and I called it home. But I didn't understand what peace really meant. So my journey was to really kind of sift through what was really unhealthy to then understand what peace looked like for me. And at 17, my mom gave me an iron. She showed me how to iron my dress shirt, and she said, get the fuck out of the house. Mm-hmm. That was it. Wow. So I'm almost 50 years old. And if you can imagine, at 17, I'm out of the house with some trade knowledge and a chaotical frame of understanding of what the feminine is. Yeah. And that was it. And that set me on the road. And initiation is, the fact is that I had a boy's emotional blueprint. Like a boy is taught to survive. A boy is taught to adapt to others, and he's taught to perform for approval. Mm-hmm. So I had this whole charade of approval and building this and showing people this side of me because I just wanted to be loved. I mean, I was a good man, but I wasn't a durable man. You bend me a little bit, I would break, but I wouldn't show anybody. And then I would collapse into shame, fear, or abandonment. And I would never get to the core context of my truth. So I just burned through a lot of relationships through codependency of me really just wanting to be loved. Mm-hmm. And a lot of men, unfortunately, have this same blueprint that they've been given. In so many ways it's different, but shown the door at 17 or 18 without understanding depth, without training their nervous system to really hold more of life, more emotions, chaos, storms, failure, all of these things without collapsing into a shell, or, I hear a lot of women say a simp. Somebody that just like fails and then they cave and they kind of just fold over and move through life with this simp attitude. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I see in a lot of the men that I'm working with in sort of the medicine world, because when they're in medicine, they're going to show up in a different way that's so authentic to bringing their challenges to light. And I see so much conversation, more than I even could have ever expected, about this shame piece, and I think there's a notion that perhaps the feminine doesn't completely understand the depths with which shadow and shame drive the bus. Yeah. For men. Yeah. And I think part and parcel of that is also, can you just talk a little bit about that? Like
for sure.
Holding that in a masculine energy seems to be very, like, it's driving the bus.
It is. And I worked with the Sacred Sons for 4 years. I had the the beautiful opportunity to do the work with them and then come on the other side to show up in that space. And if there's one thread that I was able to thread through men across the globe, I mean, I remember I was in a room in Scotland and it broke me to tears to see that these were men from Ireland, these were men from the UK, from Scotland, they were also from Switzerland, and the phrase that they all said, which is connected to boy psychology, and the root of it is shame, is I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. And that's really impressed in men at a very young age, especially if we have big emotions that get suppressed. It's basically imprinting in men that when we have this big emotion or if we have this big feeling and we want to bring it through and then we're just pushed away, that's going to be our new hardware. And so then we get into this loop of wanting to do so much, which is like a never-ending hamster wheel of approval based on performance, which is still rooted in unworthiness. Mm-hmm. So that unworthiness, that shame, it like kinks a hose in a man's vitality, and that kink shows up in depression. It shows up in addiction, and the addiction is so layered. It shows up in inverted sexuality, meaning like they're not expressive sexually. They're only, interested in experiencing it within their own self through porn because they feel so much shame for their sexuality. And so that really gets, that kink of the hose with shame is super interesting because I can see men unkink the hose when they actually speak to it and they come back into integrity with who they believe themselves to be. And they just air it out. Cool. What else did you do? What else did you do? Let it all out. Like empty this reservoir of this shame bucket, which goes all the way back to childhood. And then once they do, the light comes back in their face, their eyes, like their retinas even change. There's a spark. I'm like, whoa, let's keep that going. Yeah. And that's often done in the space of having somebody hold that space for them where they can feel safe.
And specifically other men. I mean, I think that's a bit of what we're getting to. A quick side story that I was probably 6 or 7 years ago now, I was in Kenya with the Samburu tribe, doing a kind of an integration, learning about the culture, understanding tribal, dynamics and whatnot. And it was really interesting as they spoke about at 13, which felt very young and I had all these, I was like, this is a lot for me, but it's tribal culture. At 13, they go out on this big walkabout, and the young men, the boys at this point, are preparing for this because there were some boys there that were cutting themselves. And I, do you know that this happens? And I was like, oh, this is so incredible. What are they doing? And then they're preparing for this big thing where the men take the boys out, and as they turn 13, and they do all these cuts on their body, and you're not allowed to flinch. Yeah. And if you flinch, they say if you flinch, they kill you. Yeah. And so while that seems intense to you and me in the Western world, and that's just a part of their cultural norm. Yes. I was like, oh, this is training to be in the fire. And I'm not saying we should be doing that here, but because we don't, that's going to, in some way, that's going to initiate you really damn quickly. Yeah. And we don't, I don't know we don't have anything that's like that. And I'm not saying it should be that, but what's the space where the men are gathering and getting together to really speak the truths and say, this is what we all do together in a bonded fashion. Yeah. And I'm here also in there's a mentorship quality in there that you can kind of feel amongst the tribesmen. Sure. Yeah. So it's we don't have that. And as someone who's listening to this being like, I haven't really had my heart broken in this way, or I've perhaps I don't even know they're masking and pushing some things down that have happened to them. And where do they go to begin that process of self-actualization? That's what we're talking about, right? Right. It's if you don't know what you don't know, but how do you go find it if you don't know? Big time. Yeah. Yeah. And, there's with the indigenous tribes too, the point of the cut is to leave a scar and to remind them that while they are susceptible to being wounded, that you will heal. And
most men, whether they know it or not, are on the initiatory path in one way or another, where most men get stuck in either the boy psychology of collapsing, shutting down, running away, and creating that loop, which I did for a very long time. And then oftentimes there's a breaking point or a sever. It comes with pain. So it's heartbreak, loss, family loss. It's like finally touching grief, because a lot of people don't experience grief. They don't actually go into their grief to the especially in Western culture with death. They might experience a little residue of it at a funeral, but they don't like go into it and grieve properly. But these are the opportunities and the invitations that men get along the way. But most of them get stuck there because they don't actually go into it. What happens if a boy's psychology graduates, he'll go into like the wanderer, which if I'm attuned to what's happening right now, I sense that a lot of men are in the wandering phase, which is a beautiful part of the initiation, where they're kind of like questioning authority. They're questioning their career paths. They're questioning their conditioning. They're possibly taking on some new or releasing some spiritual beliefs. They're adopting some tools, some biohacking. They're connecting to their body in some way, but it's also in a lone wolf fashion. The next stage of initiation is to be reflected back and allow yourself to be held in the space of other men. Iron sharpens iron. And most men have the wound with other men in one magnitude or another. I got punched when I was a kid, and I would project that on most guys through fear. And I wouldn't want to get intimate with other guys because I was still carrying that fear of their potential violence. And in my particular case, my ex-wife had an affair, and that was really rugged for me because I certainly didn't trust men, because every man I saw had the capacity to cheat in the way that I experienced it. But really, if I had to work through that, I was only going to be able to do that with other men, because they were able to hold my projection and let me just let it all out so that I can actually bridge the gap and connect. And so I was pulling away and they were drawing me back in. So men heal in relationship with other men. And so you ask, like, what's the cultural context for initiation? The first thing is going to be pain. And it's going to start with heartbreak, loss, or job loss, or some financial crisis. That's always going to be the catalyst. What men do with that, or how long they stick in that, it can be expedited. I had just as I look back and connect the dots, I couldn't be more fortunate to have had a woman in my life who was attuned to social media and finding these things. I'm a construction guy from Chicago.
Which is also, I just need to say, so funny for me, because I get it. And I don't look at you. We don't know each other to the depths of that, you know? And so I don't look at you like that, but I think, oh, that's like, it's such an interesting trajectory when you see the expansion of people and the multi-layers that we all have.
Yeah. And it's really cool because I'm able to relate and put myself in the seat of Chicago construction guys, what they talk about, what their, let's just call it their autopilots are, and what they spend their time and space communicating. And it's very surface, as you can imagine. They're
like, hey, Tony, you still driving that piece of shit?
Yeah, it's sports. it's you know, like, yay, forget about it, you know, and all that stuff is very true. But to actually, like, if I were to walk in angry, to have one of them hold me in it without actually just amplifying it, because what those men would do is they would pour gas on the fire and they would just erupt it. And then next thing you know, we're all pissed. And then we're going to the bar and we're forgetting about it. And we actually never get to the substance or the core of the thing, which, if there was a little bit of facilitation and direction, now that I understand facilitation, like, there is so much healing that can take place when one man comes through and says, I don't want to live this way anymore. It's just that simple. I don't want to feel this. This is awful. Like, I hate how I feel. This is disgusting. I'm not proud of who I am. I've said it in a room of 200 other men. I'm just not proud of the man that I am. And it's like, there wasn't a man that wasn't shedding tears because it's like we all carry the same stories, the same things. But that group wasn't going to get it done for me. And so my partner found, I was looking up men's groups, and at that time, pre-COVID, there was only a handful of them. And what's really great about men's groups, I'll just kind of put this on a platter for whoever is listening. There's a lot of different flavors of men's groups that are available. There's some for like the everyday guy that enjoys sports and maybe likes going on nature hikes. That's his vibe. I was a little more, I grew up going to Southside, like Baptist and Christian churches with my mom that were like flame-throwing sermons. I was drawn more to like esoteric, spiritual, something that had some cultural meat to it, because I felt so whitewashed in my upbringing of not knowing anything about my culture. And I'm like, let me get curious about other people's cultures. So I was able to go to a men's group, the Sacred Sons, that had so many different flavors from across the globe that I could feel into other people's songs and their drums and their feathers and the palo and the songs around the fire. And that, for me, it activated something. And, fast forward 4 years later, I went there for my first experience. 4 years later, I'm, in Sweat Lodge singing songs that are just pouring through me. Grandfather's song, somebody's grandfather. I was just connecting to a field that had so much beauty and so much life to it that I could share with these men, and also, invite them in. Now write your own songs, share your own songs, because I sing these songs with my daughters, and I want my daughters to sing these songs with me so that we can have these moments in our family where there's some culture that we're creating together.
Yeah. And so it speaks to like a little bit of a level of like the intensity that drew you in for change, right?
Yeah.
Like that group specifically.
Yeah.
Especially coming from that background, feels like, it's like, it's such a great fit for you.
They had swag too. So like they had,
the name and everything that goes on. They're like,
they had a piece that I knew that I had within me, but it was dormant. And
you were like, I see it there. I want more of that.
Yeah. And most men, there's a expression piece. When when the shame hose gets unkinked, expression comes online. And with expression, there's color. And with color, there's vitality. There's, I walk around and it pains me to see men wearing all gray polyester with their phones 2 feet away from their face. Their aura's gray. Their whole essence is gray. Because we here in the West, we just don't have any colorful songs, that's not demonic or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, where do men connect to their roots? And in this way, I was able to kind of connect to so many other roots of so many other of my brothers. And like, while I don't have roots here, I was able to feel into so many different flavors of life that I was able to create the colorful flavor that is my own individuality, that they really not only enhanced, but amplified, and then started pouring fire on it, like bring it through, show me more.
Yeah.
Show me even more.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a beautiful opportunity for men to just to be more.
Yeah.
Show me
and
more.
to be a bit like boundless, to be like, what does that feel like? Because you have to kind of go past your edges to get back to yourself in some way.
Well, the story comes up. Am I worthy of showing up in front of 444 men and like lighting the fire for them to be like, I've arrived, I'm here, let's go.
Yeah.
And I could hear the story. I could hear that little boy that wanted to show up and like protect me and hide. And it was the opportunity for me to this is like reparenting work for me to say, I could see why you did that, to adapt and to fit in, but I got you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show up moving forward, and I'm going to lead us in a good way. You're safe. Step back, let me come through.
Yeah.
And that's the shift that, I'm calling men into.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I sort of to that end, and recently on a podcast we were just talking about before we started, I heard you talk, and I'm paraphrasing wildly because it's my language, but that there's like a yearning. I feel this as a female, like my feminine energy in the space with men, all the men in my life, this like yearning to like call forth more of that. And I feel like a lot of women who are my girlfriends are also like, I'm working in my relationship, in my communication, in my dynamic to call forth more of, yes, it's about what we want, but it's also just about what we really need, like at a really baseline level or a soul level.
Yeah.
And I'm just, if you and I have if we consider that there's no right or wrong, I sort of want to ask the question, like, what is the feminine energy? What are women doing wrong? And what I think I really mean is just, a lot of us are overgiving and really doing this try hard thing to say like, how can I do the dance around? Or maybe I'm people pleasing, or maybe I'm disappearing myself. But like, how can we step in gracefully in a way that is then, lighting the spark, but not, burning the whole thing down and holding the fire and being the keeper and like all of that.
Yeah.
From a navigation standpoint, like especially for women who are listening, like so much is going right in my relationship, and then there's all this other stuff that doesn't feel like whole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think women are doing anything wrong from what I'm sensing in my field and in the comments. I think that the feminine is rising, and rising incredibly quick. And I think that when I say rising, it's that the call for depth and emotional intimacy is not just becoming, but has become the new standard.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case 6-7 years ago in my world. I mean, it was kind of entering into that, but there was just so much more room for forgiveness and allowance, and allowing the pattern to go on for like a year before things would actually bubble up. People were just almost really comfortable with the safety of a relationship. Whereas what I'm sensing from hundreds of comments as I ask the question about what women need from men and what does integrity, is that it's a simple call. Like, we're looking to be able to feel you more. And there is a gap, a noticeable gap of a lack of initiation, because there isn't much emotional literacy for many men, because many men are disconnected from their heart. They're disconnected from their body. They're running on a handful of tabs every day, and they're just looping over and over and over again. And so women are asking, I can't feel you, communicate to me. They don't have the language for it because the psychology is still immature. And these are good men. Like, course, there's incredible men, and I have incredible men in my life that just don't have the literacy or the connection to that point just yet. So, for I think the $1 million question, what might be underneath it, and please confirm it.
Oh yeah, like lay it on me.
Because, as I've tracked and as I've listened to relationship conversation and some really great podcasts, there's a piece that I continue to hear, which is, how long do I stay with a really good man that I've communicated to him what I need, but he's just not answering the call? I think like at the core of it, it's like, how long do I stay? There's so much good there. I see so much potential. The potential is boundless. It's like women are so dialed in and intuitive with the man's potential, and they can see it, they can water it, and they could send reels, they can send podcasts, they can send songs, they can bring them to things and create all of that. Women are the catalyst, and they always will be the catalyst, but it's up to the man to rise. What I say in my experience, and what I found to be the incredible piece that becomes the true catalyst, is that in that process, there is a little bit of enablement. And when I say enablement, it's like, my partner left me. We've been together for 10 years now. So let me frame that. We've been together for 10 years, but at the midpoint, we ended it. And that end was the kick that I needed, because she was allowing me to package. Once I got the understanding of how to use really good words, and I got the understanding of using emotional literacy, I used it to manipulate her in a way that I knew that I was compliant in, and she kind of could sense it, but we just like allowed it for a little bit, where she's like, oh, that's interesting. He's saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Boy, those things he's saying is really good. Oh, it's so juicy, these words. And then there was just a moment where she's just like, the words aren't cutting it. I need to feel that you understand the impact of not leaning into the words that you're saying and the impact on our relationship. And so, you know, if we're going to talk about kings, a king understands the impact of his words and his actions being out of alignment. And he takes ownership and responsibility. In our case, we just decided that it was best for us to part ways. I needed to go on this path on my own. I needed to kind of sort through some things. For men to go through like an awakening or emotional maturity within a relationship, it's incredibly challenging. That's why men need other men, because the patterns, the enabling, the coddling, the manipulating, whatever the little techniques or tools that they're used to, they're able to get away with for quite some time, because the relationship's really not going anywhere. We know we're in this.
But other men aren't really going to let you get away with that same thing.
Not at all.
That's like
not if you have good.
They're like, I see you. I see
totally.
you, brother.
Oh yeah, and I can see my friend's stuff, and they can see my stuff instantly. And we
it's
just
like, that's
we
cool
call
that you just
up.
said that to me, but isn't this actually the situation? And you're like, fuck.
It's really cute. Yeah, it's really cute. You know, and language reveals limitations, and so once we hone in on language and what guys are saying, we're just like, wait a minute, what you're saying and what you're doing, it's real simple. You know, integrity is the intersection of where actions and words come in congruence, and everything's like just right. And so there's this pressure point in every relationship dynamic where a man's saying something, but his action's not, you know. And so I typically say men love time. Men are logical. They love having the pressure of time and the crunch. It really is what fires men up. Most men love it. I won't really go there with men to like, you know, point that out as much, but I know that's how they operate. So I give them time frames. And in relationship, it's really important. My partner gave me 3 months to say, I want you to have these things that you've been saying forever cleaned up. And if you're not able to have those cleaned up by that time, then we're just going to have to part ways. And I wasn't able to, because the reality was I had no intention of cleaning those things up whatsoever. I was just saying what I needed to do in order to keep her around. Once I was able to see that piece of my own psyche, that was really helpful for me, because I took ownership and I was like, look, I can't believe I was doing that. Like, how did that make you feel? And I'm so sorry. Like, that's ick. It's really ick that I did that. And I'm just going to need to we're going to have to just let this thing go, because I got to figure out these adaptive patterns that I'm doing to keep you around. I'm trying to manage you and your world, and I'm trying to actually navigate my inner world for the first time in 39 years. I might need a little space and some extra guidance. And that's when I went and did men's work, and I hired multiple coaches, spent thousands of dollars for reflection after reflection for me to hear and see myself without letting her down.
Yeah.
And in that, I started to really find myself. Yeah. And then we were able to come back together, and here I am in Austin. So,
yeah. And the notion about I think hiring and working with people, I mean, I know this from, you know, and even this is how I found you in the beginning, was like, hey, I need, a bit of my personal challenges. There are many times I've worked with female coaches and I've learned so much from so many, but when things really get to in the fire for me, there's something about my developmental years that just I can listen to male energy speak to me with clarity. And probably because 18 years in corporate America, all male bosses, no women in my industry at that time, all of that changed the way that I hear language and do communication. And I've been unpacking that, as you can probably imagine, for the last, however many years. Yeah. Women are like, how are you communicating with me? This is direct, and I don't know, do you like me? Right. And I'm like, oh my God, I was that. And now I've become this a bit more, the alpha is gone, I think, thankfully. But in that, through that lens of communication and the way that women and men are speaking to each other, It's like how do we get to the next step, I think, is like, how do we get to the next space? I mean, you unpacking that is super helpful because it's really about, you know, the way that we're working together in communication as men and women. And also there's a level of like bravery that I think women are trying to have these conversations behind closed doors, and then have this level of bravery. Like, I need a woman to say to me sometimes as well, hell no, you're accepting that?
Yeah.
So that we can instigate or incite each other to be able to like protect our own hearts, and also to not be the thing that is, maybe it's like the mother energy, right? Or like fulfilling that over and over and over again. So it's just the notion of how we are the divining rod to a certain extent, and then how we are stepping away when we're like, this is promise unfulfilled in what I see in the potential, and also not my job.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, men are overperforming and women are overfunctioning, and that's like a polarity mismatch.
Yeah.
You know, like polarity 101, that's like, it's scattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to say two things to like, where do we go from here? And it's so fundamental and important, but yet it can be really uncomfortable, is shared responsibility and really uncomfortable, honest, true conversations. Because a lot of women are having the conversations with other women as to, what do I do? How do I approach it? What do I say next? And there's this whole thing, and the man's over here and he doesn't have a community or a tribe or anybody to have that conversation. So he's living all up here and probably isn't tuned to the same radio station. And so in my marriage, we were never tuned to the same station. She was communicating something that I couldn't decipher. And so I would shut down and I would take it as an attack.
Yeah.
And so the approach matters, but it's not from a coddling perspective. And I, discussed this on my prior podcast, is I think it's really important in all relationships to create really beautiful, tender moments where it's like, we're going to slow this down. There's something that I'd like to bring forward. And, like, I'm just going to ask for you to stay here with me and hold me in this peace. And, after 10 years of being in relationship with my partner, we know that like we need to kind of cue this moment up. It can't be like she just got home from
in the middle of
the grocery store and is like cooking and I'm like, I got a piece for you. It's like delivery moment, kind of like, cleansing the space a little bit and really setting this up. Like I've noticed that you've been avoiding the thing that you said that you were going to do. And I can actually feel a little contraction in you. And I just want to ask how I can show up to complement, amplify, or shine back, elevate your fucking greatness. Because I think in relationship, we so often forget. Just in life, we forget. We forget, we remember, we forget. So I think in my relationship, I love how we complement our remembrance together, where it's like sometimes I forget. And luckily, I've got a lot of great men in my life who like constantly remind me. Doesn't matter. There's still going to be that moment where I'm driving around with my daughters in Illinois and it's snowing and it's cold and maybe they're fighting or something and it just gets heavy. And like we could use a little assistance of like amplifying who we are, how far we've come, the greatness and the potential that we see for each other. And so that's like a shared responsibility, and I'm not diminishing your efforts. And I can see that maybe you've walked away from the truth of your heart, but can I walk with you back and like hold your hand in it and guide you? So my partner's recreated herself like 10 times over again in the last 5 years. And there's a grief, there's an ache. She's a Scorpio. So there's a depth. And then there's this arc out. And each and every time I offer patience and grace, but then I'm also going to like bring her into the honest shared conversation of like, I see you, honey. I see how much you're showing up and doing it, and I just want to pour love on you and remind you how epic you are and what do you need from me.
Yeah. And everyone should get like this is like a 101 course in like this is why everyone needs to work with you, because the support of the language is so important, right? Words are magic, and they can, the way you frame something to a partner can be so often we're coming to someone and the initial moment is like, oh, they want to have a conversation. I've done something wrong.
Totally.
We all go there.
Totally.
And there's always the way that when you and I speak, there's like language that I pick up from you that I'm like, oh, I need to remember this nugget. I need to remember that. And bringing and doing the work to find prompts that make sense that I've been like practicing, like prompts, whether it's with clients or friends, or it's like, is there something that you need to hear right now? Or is there something that would feel supportive for me to say to you right now? Yeah. And then just shutting up and letting that and waiting to see what comes out. Yeah. In a very different way. So I think that everything you're speaking is like, there are women that are listening right now like, that's perfect. That's what I want with my partner. For sure. And perhaps even men, but also the language piece is like, I think it's what I was sort of pointing to before, saying like we weren't getting all of this from our parents, and it's no slight on our parents because they weren't studied in being in conscious communication. And they're doing the best they can, of course. But the conscious communication wasn't even a thing. Like, it wasn't even a phrase in the vernacular. So people learning how to sort of speak to each other and taking that, as a nervous system coach, of being like, I think people have to be downregulated to even start the conversation. 100%. Because if one person is already feeling like I'm in trouble, it's already over.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there has to be like an emotional navigation operating system, because that is the blueprint for communication, is to be able to stay neutral in these open conversations. So I'm able to look at most people, especially women in my life, because I have daughters, 13 and 11 right now. So I have such a tenderness for my daughters, and I can see when I'm looking at my partner, I could see this little girl in her that, like the little picture that I have of her holding the butterflies, and like just the tender beauty that's in her. And that's my responsibility. It's so easy to take somebody's weakness and douse it and amplify it and dominate them. Like, that's what we're seeing. That's what we see in the inversion of the king dynamic, where it's like all about control and dominance versus nurturing and watering. Like, relationships are gardens. And so when there's a conversation that needs to be tended to, we get to pluck the weeds together. Yeah. And in prior relationships, it was like holding in the vault all of the things that they did from 2 years ago. So I would bring something to her, and then she'd have 5 things to combat me. That's never going to get where you want to go. It's always coming back to, this is what I need, and this is what I'm going to do to give to myself. So I got to take ownership. This is how I'm going to show up for myself in relationship, and this is how I'm going to ask that we move together in a new way that's like, we're sharing this responsibility. Yeah. Relationships are a wild ride. They are the crucible in with which we continue to be reborn, I think. 100%. Over and over again. Yes. What do you feel like is happening in like circles of men that like just can't be poked at in relationships or therapy? Or this is like another thing about, sometimes I will go to a therapist, and I'm not a huge advocate of talk therapy at this point, but I've done plenty of it in my life. And it's like, I have this thing too. It's like, this is what I was speaking to earlier as well. I will sometimes go to males for advisement at a professional level, is because the women who are my friends sometimes, or the women who are my therapists, I find this notion that they sort of like, I don't mean this romantically, but they like fall for me. Like, they let me get away. I'm like, oh, I'm just getting away with here what I get away with in the rest of the world. Like, no one's call me out on my shit, please. Like, call me out on my shit, please. Don't talk about like, your arms are looking really great. Are you training? Like, what's happening here? I mean, not in an inappropriate way, but just like that they're like blowing me up in the way that's like, I want you to help me like crack my heart open and call me on my bullshit. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, like, in men's circles, that like a one-on-one therapist, or in relationships with females, et cetera, like what things are happening in those circles that are just making the difference? Yeah. Yeah. Well, just to rewind, we as coaches or we as therapists can only take somebody to the level that we take ourselves. So when somebody's, kind of doing that type of behavior, I think that there are just natural tendencies to avoid confrontation or the discomfort in the men's spaces that I'm privy to, or how I show up for men. That uncomfortable place, that's where the initiation, that's where the crack, that's where the repatterning happens, because patterns just continue to go over and over again. And you're saying, well, that's the same pattern that I've experienced so many times with therapists. Talk therapy is incredible. I love it. And I think it's the entry work for all men, because it's the first time a man has the space to actually hear his own voice. I went to therapy. I told him what I was doing. I could actually feel in my therapist that he hated his life. Now knowing, what I can sense and what I can, as I look back to that memory, he was miserable. And when I was telling him about my divorce, my new partner, all this cool stuff that's happening, he was like, yeah, that's pretty great. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm a disaster. And, in the space of men's work, there is a rupture that happens that's fucking violent. When men crack, it shakes the room. And the nervous system fortitude that takes place when a man does that allows him to feel safe to open that space is really special. And there's plenty of men out there doing it. I don't want to speak to the limitation of there's just a handful of people. There's a lot of incredible men that are doing it.
But when you say nervous system fortitude, you sort of mean it takes the level of strength of a men's container holding a man in that moment.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about generational violence that comes through our cellular memory, that other men are standing and they're not flinching. When I brought it through. All of the pain, all of the anger, all of the betrayal, all of the heartbreak that I felt, decades of it, I can still see the faces of the men. And what that imprinted in me is that these are good, strong men that truly care about me as a human being, not walking through with this stuff anymore. And then they asked me, is there any more? Is there any more? And I'm like, I don't even know. What else is in
awesome.
there? Let's go. So nervous system excavation for men is the crucible in the work. Because talk therapy usually just enhances more of what men love, which is words. But the somatic experience, the rupture, the crack, the opening and the release is the ability to rewire an entire cellular history, so that I'm now able to speak to your audience or go into rooms and say anything that I want to say without fear of abandonment, rejection, failure, all of the collapse behaviors of immature masculine psychology. All of that gets rewired in this process. And in that rewiring, we create a new musculature to love. And that's what women are asking for in relationship is I want to feel, okay, yes, emotional depth, all of these things, but we want to feel more love. We want to leave all of the lower chakra, survival, fear, anger, and we want to get up here into this section that's just here to here. 18 inches is the difference. The men live here, but the juice is right here. But there's so much blocking right in here. And the words usually are, I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I don't know who I am. Once all of that stuff gets released and the energy that's behind it, love, just abundance, love, reciprocity, trust, intuition, all of these gifts just unlock. And so a man's true potential starts to be birthed, and then he gets to show up to be of service. because most men are in service to I, which is the immature psyche, versus the service to we.
Yeah.
That's coming back to the king, where I get to show up for my kingdom, for my people, all of my people, all of God's people. And I get to speak the language that calls other people to be of service to other people, all with the same function, which is more connection, more love, more intimacy, more depth, more joy, more truth.
Yeah. And something about it is like unabashed in some way, like the notion of, I could ask you anything right now and I feel like you'd tell me the truth and you kind of wouldn't care on the other side if there's some people that might be like off put by it because you stand so much in your own autonomy.
Sure.
And I feel that with you so deeply. And for anyone who's not following you on social, a sacred king, they should be.
Thank you.
I'm always like, breathe and slide. How did you get that before me? Like, I'm a breathwork person. It's amazing. I can never do it.
I'm a breathwork person too.
I know. I'm just jealous.
I just grabbed
like,
it.
It's just great. It's just great.
Thank you.
So really being in that space of you share your viewpoints so deeply and poetically in many ways, like this, like, you know, warrior poet thing that you have is really beautiful for people to see and get a distilled version that works in social, and also I think incites people to question themselves and life and politics and all of that. And I want to take a few questions and really just talk to you about your political not just viewpoints, but the politics and the way that you bring it into the human condition, into how people can discover the leader that is inside themselves and the autonomous choice that they have. And kind of ask the thing too, in a way that like how the psychosocial environment right now and the politics of the world right now is affecting men, because I've had, you know, big, strong men standing near the ice bath and made commentary a couple of years back when a lot of stuff was going on around Black Lives Matter. I had this thing come out of my mouth that I was like, I'm going to so get canceled over this. But I asked these 3 men standing near an ice bath, I said, let's just take a moment and breathe together. And they were big, strong guys and felt a little closed off nervous system wise. And I felt like I want to poke a little or like see where they're at. And I said to them, I know that you're like 3 white men standing by an ice bath right now in times that feel confusing, where you don't know if you can open a door or what you can say is allowed or not allowed. And I just want to take a moment to like breathe into that together. Yeah. To feel the uncomfortability that you don't know how to do the dance. And also the night I went home, you know, you go in that night, I'm like in the shower, I'm like, oh, did I speak too much? Did I say, you know, just like,
sure. Yeah.
It's not about race. It was just, it was, I could feel the holding in them. And the next day, the one gentleman who was sort of the higher up in the group of the community of these medical doctors came to me and he's like, can I speak to you outside? And I was like, oh my God, I said the wrong thing. And he actually came out and said to me, we all went to go play like pickleball in the morning, and we had a conversation in the locker room that we hadn't ever had before. Like finally, because we had that moment where you asked the question.
So good.
You know? And so those things are like, I think the political divide and the social psycho culture that's going on right now, like how is that working for or against men?
Yeah, great question. And I think what I've really drenched into this particular year is, because I'm not immune to it whatsoever. I go to the gym and I see the men that don't make eye contact anymore. And it was like that during COVID, but I feel like now it's even different. It's more, this is become what culture is. And I speak to it a lot with my friends, and we're in similar age groups. So like we grew up without the phones, and we grew up in a time where we would go to the grocery store and nobody was on a phone in the grocery store, and people would laugh or talk. And like, there was just, there was a warmth that was different. And still in Austin, it's substantially warmer than when I go to other polarizing states where like nobody's looking at me. I go in the sauna, not a man looks up. Wow, nothing. Yeah. And it's confronting to me, because I'm a man that enjoys connection. I'd rather have a little, you know, conversation. Hey, like, what's your workout? What are you doing? You got an incredible fit. Like, give me your codes. Yeah. I used to have those conversations a lot, and they were meaningful throughout my day, the little touch points. They've all but evaporated. And so I'm like, whoa, I'm really feeling into the polarizing nature of how so many people are completely living in a synthetic reality. And as I started to tune into what I was feeling and kind of the grief, and then I would listen into women, you know, kind of talking about this gap, and then, you know, food's poison, water's being poisoned, the government's poisoning us with vaccines, or whatever the things are, I started to like really zoom out and I just point to the design. If I were the devil, was what my father used to listen to back when I think it was like the late 80s. There was this beautiful, trying to remember his name. I'll come back to it, but he spoke to the architecture of darkness, let's just say, and the divide that's created, how both political wings flap from the same bird. And I had that kind of knowing when I was younger. My dad never really spoke to, you know, Republic or Democrat or anything. Yeah. He just kind of said something not right. Nobody's ever doing anything for me. And I think just this year, in terms of the exposure and transparency and with social media, it's pretty great because nothing that goes under the rug stays there. Everything is getting swept out. So everything is being seen, and how people handle and how people view with it is an indication of what's triggering them. You know, our triggers are our treasures. It reveals the spot that's like touched a nerve. I'd like to think that I've done a lot of work on myself, so I don't actually get triggered when I see things. I'm able to like look at it as, oh, that's how the design works. That's how the architecture works. We're going to disconnect men through porn, through SSIs, through Adderall. I've got a lot of men that I've worked with who have struggled with the disconnect from Adderall, and having been on Adderall since they were 14, and what that's kind of done to their psyche and how they've lost context with what it's like to feel and navigate the feeling sensation of this world. Mm-hmm. Which then, you know, led me down other kind of, you know, areas and rabbit holes where I'm like, oh, especially with the path of initiation and the lack thereof, Western culture, when I started looking into indigenous tribes and all of the rites of passage that they would do, I'm like, wow, we here in Western culture are literally poisoning men. Through food, through porn, through the phone, all through this thing. It's like a hijacking. And then if we create more polarization of men, you know, not really knowing how to show up, then we're going to draw women even further, and men are collapsing, and we have fertility collapsing. We have men wearing polyester boxers. We have now, what I'm actually sensing is the side effects of things that were implemented a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm really feeling and calling and just like holding. Like, it's important to understand polarity. It's important to understand emotions, but it's also incredibly important, because I think it's part of the reclamation process, is to understand the architecture that's creating the divide, the architecture that's making men sick, the architecture that's making men infertile. Because if I can point to that and a man like wakes up from it, then he's going to start to reclaim all these other parts and pieces of it, because that was my process. Mm-hmm. Holy shit, I'm wearing polyester boxers and I've been wearing for 10 years. I wonder if that had to do with the infertility that I experienced with my ex-wife that I would have never known about. But I just said, oh my God, it's just me. I have a problem. And so many guys just say, oh, I have a problem. I have a this, I have a that. But they're not aware enough of all of the reasons. And it's not to point, it's not to blame. It's to
highlight the chess game that's happening before we even know it.
Yeah. Like, let's kind of talk about it. And I think it's, you know, I think it's pretty gnarly right now. And so, you know, the call is more for like awareness. I try not to do too much like polarizing this versus that. It's just like, this is what's happening. Let's stop pretending. And I have had a lot of men, especially globally. It's really interesting. I have men from Germany, men from Russia that follow me. And they're like, holy shit, nobody's talking about that over here. Like, nobody's
like
talking.
Oh, wow, an educated American.
Yeah, like, wow, cool. Thanks. Yeah, and I had one guy say, you know, I burned, which I wouldn't recommend, but he's like, I burned all my polyester boxers. If I'm going to like actually take a pause here, and I breathed into these moments a lot. It's not lost on me. That man was in his 20s. When he's in his mid-30s, that decision and all the other decisions that come from that one little awakening moment could be the catalyst for him to have a happy, healthy family. Mm-hmm. Just that thing. So what I often speak to and what I continue to speak to is don't diminish like your truth and your power in showing up, because if it's just for that one guy who potentially, in 15 years could write back and send me a picture of his family, because I asked him, I said, amazing. When you do have a family, please send me a picture, even if it's 15 years down the road. Mm-hmm. Because these are like how we come together and how we inspire each other to continue to share and reveal the fuckery that's happening in the world, like from an empowered place to like bring people into our frequency of like, yeah, we got this together, team. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. And just like the inquiry that comes from that one, seeing a piece of your content about clothing, about politics, about the things that are going on, and then being like, am I just following along with some of the stuff that's been told to me forever, or like, can I have an inquiry of like what I really believe or feel, or I don't know, let me chat GPT polyester and find out what's really going on, or what have you.
It's crude oil. Yeah, like it's kind of gnarly.
You're like, I know. You're like, look at anyone who's watching this video. You're like, look at my style. I know what I'm wearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that it was such an empowering moment for me to say, wow, my dad didn't teach me about fabrics or, all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's a fun journey for a man to really start like to hone in on what kind of water he drinks, what kind of honey he consumes. Like all these little things have been the touch points that I have with the brothers that are in my life. We're always comparing Manuka honeys. Like, what are you using?
Which is great. Yeah. It's like you have to, I always say, like, you have to figure out how you like your eggs. Like, because every single little decision you make in your life is attempted to be made by someone else.
Every single one. Yeah. And, I try to hold it loosely too, Kristin. Honestly, my dad's 83 and he's probably drank tap water his entire life. And it probably contributes to his inability to see the things. But I do hold a lot of it loosely because our bodies are miracles. They're so resilient. And yes, I want to do everything that I could potentially do to live as long as I can. And I'm just not, I don't take it too far. I have a buddy who he's really aware, but sometimes he wears polyester outfits and he's like, I don't care. It's a good outfit. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not going to beat you up.
All right,
and that's your choice. With this decision, with this awareness, what will I choose? Yeah. Is the core of it.
Yeah. And I lean a little bit, dare I say, towards the libertarian philosophy of sort of it's your land, your body, your, Moulin Le Bay. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you like.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also awareness is important.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about soul drenched love, this quote I pulled from the conversation that you had recently, but I want to just ask you this question sort of as a quick fire. If you could develop any rite of passage that was instituted tomorrow for every male on the planet, what would it be?
Ooh.
And maybe you're like, let's have another question and I'll get back to you, but what would it be?
Ooh. I'm just going to pause. I'm going to feel into this.
Yeah, I want you to.
So this particular modality, I can speak to it because it works and it needs to be done. Clearly, there's a lot of context of safety and agreements that come with it. But in my work with the Sacred Sons and just private mentoring that I've done, the most amazing thing, when we speak about talk therapy versus somatic therapy, is that it's one or two ways. When a man's held down by about 20 different hands and gets to rise up with, because the hands are life, the hands are failure, the hands are mom and dad, the hands are the government, the hands are everything that's burdened him and has held him down. And I've seen it over and over, and I've done it so many times, and there's different variations of it. But we typically take the man to the point where he's exhausted and he's trying to get up, and worse. We ask him the 5 things that are the stories that he tells himself over and over and over again. And it's consistent across the board globally that men say the same things, and we just say it to him over and over and over again. And that's the hands that hold him down in life. And as we say it to him, he creates a new mantra. So like, it's the overcoming, it's the possibility, it's the I believe in myself, I am fucking worthy, I am powerful, I am brave, I am honest, I am tender, whatever it is, he's reclaiming the story, and he's actually physically witnessing and feeling the entire thing. And as he's pushing up and gets up, when he gets up and gets to move through that arc, he's completely reprinted and rewired. And the men that I've taken, hundreds of men, I still get messages from them over and over again. That threshold changed their entire trajectory. They're now showing up, they're doing local men's groups, they're showing up for food pantries, they have men's groups within their churches. Like, the amount of community that has come from these men now being safe and rewiring their stories and their patterns to show up in community, for family, for relationships, for love.
For themselves.
Like, no more abandoning themselves for survival. They get to repattern and re-show up for themselves in such good ways. I know I'm speaking to a modality, but I also want to kind of, like, not many people get to see the inner workings of these men's groups. And then there's also, you know, kind of men kind of pushing through other men, like locking arms with each other, and they get to move the mountain and move through. Somatically, what happens is they believe in themselves, and they get to push some of this lower density stuff, and hearing their stories kind of like pounded in their face, it's like they get to move through it. And when they go back home and the stories come up, they have now imprinted that they were on the other side. Like, I know how to get to the other side. I've got to move through. The biggest piece, though, is that they didn't do it alone. That's the biggest piece. Because at the end, when I have them turn around and they feel into the circle, there's a lot of other men there. And men are typically prone to being lone wolves. They want to do it alone. They want to kind of pat themselves on the back. They isolate within relationship. And women are like, come on, go find your tribe. Go be honest. Go be transparent. When a man gets to imprint that he was safe, held, and was allowed to move through something that redefined him, he's going to remember he gets to reach out to other men for that accountability and support. I'll never not do that. Again, like, never not, because I know what is the, you know, I know what happens when I don't, and that didn't work. And I know what happens when I do. So that rewiring within an initiatory experience, so good.
I can't even imagine just the physicality of it, the somatics of it, that's like really working in the body, so that the body is like, oh, even if the brain is going when the thoughts are going in one direction, that the body is like, no, remember, remember this.
We got this.
This is where I was strong. This is where I got to the other side. So cool.
Super cool.
You could have paused for 20 minutes and that was like the amazing answer. More of that, please. More of that. So I want to just wrap a little bit as we begin to close with a little bit of conversation and ask you the question, like, when you speak to what soul-drenched love, what is that?
Well, I instantly think of the beauty of allowing my partner to be reborn over and over and over again and inspire me through her just unbelievable amount of creativity and patience and grace that she offers to me in our relationship. It allows me the ability for me to then double down and just be drenched with patience and grace that we're not going anywhere. We get to, every morning when I wake up, I just look over and I say, I choose you. Like, I want her to be reminded always that I'm not going anywhere and I'm going to show up really big for us today. And at the end of the day, I'm going to remind you again, like, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And I think if you, women who are listening to that, the way that lands, it's like powerfully,
Yeah.
in the way that the notion that there's like a big exhale when you get to the space when you can be in partnership that is, so deeply connected. This isn't about the little stuff. I think there's like a big exhale, and I want to speak for women across the board, but perhaps you have enough women in your comment section and in your coaching programs that feels true to you as well. Like the ability to just be free inside of the longing for change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's epic work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And everyone should book a call with you. That's what I feel like.
No, I appreciate
Listen, that's just some real shit on a podcast like this.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you so
just
much,
for the reflection and the mirror that you bring. And it comes from this life experience that you've had. It's not like you're like, I'm in my ivory tower. Everything's been easy peasy. Like you've learned it over broken hearts and broken dreams and all of the pieces that many of what you spoke about today, and sure, million more situations that have happened in your life.
For sure.
To help you grow, that then helps us all grow from a place of like practicality. So I just want to like honor that you're
thank you. Yeah.
Crushing that.
Thank you.
For us all.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
So we're all like, sorry, not sorry you had to go through all that, sir.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And not all of us are wired to go through that much. Some of us are, some of us aren't. But I'm grateful that I got to, because on the other side, I get to hear things like that, and I get to show up, and I get to learn more. Like I continue to get to learn, like, how can I expand my capacity for more love?
Yeah.
More and more love. Even when I think like I've got it, then I get to experience more. And I'm just like, yes, this is so good. It's so worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What is one thing you're doing daily or weekly or regularly in a routine right now that is that you're lit up by, that's helping you sustain your like health and well-being?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I do have a gift for all of your listeners, because the catalyst for me, again, construction worker, waking up super early in the morning, going and doing the thing over and over and over again. I had to have like a routine, a healthy routine. And the routine anchored me so deeply, it transformed my life. And I was saturating myself in like ancient wisdom and great books of routines and health and stuff way before what's out and available now really existed. And I wrote an ebook about that exact routine that changed my life. And I'm going to give it away to all of your audience. It's definitely framed for men.
Amazing.
But if there's a woman that's listening and she's like, man, this would be like something I can kind of
slip under the pillow
to my man. The code at checkout is going to be Wellpower.
Great.
I've set that all up so they can just go to my link in my bio on my Instagram.
Great.
It's a Sovereign One Blueprint, which is it's my morning routine that I've been doing in so many ways. I will walk away and I'll come back. Kundalini yoga completely rewired my entire nervous system and my capacity to hold next to nothing, to being at a castle in Scotland with 444 men and holding that energy. I can point to this routine because it didn't happen just as a miracle. It happened to me showing up and creating intensity in my nervous system, myself, and then getting really comfortable with the discomfort of it and continuing to expand and expand and expand. And that looks like breath of fire. You know, I was actually doing mantras and kriyas, and I took it all the way there. And then there's a lot of like shadow work journaling that I include in the ebook as well for a man. Questions that men don't get asked often. It's relatively pointed, but it's like in the way that I'm like, okay, we're going for truth, and I'm going to reveal this, and I'm going to hold it. So like, let's look at that piece. And so it's a 20-20-20 formula of yoga. There's some meditation in there, and then there's some shadow work journaling that's really been supportive. I'm pretty simple these days. When I need yoga, I'll do it. I mainly live in nature, and I love standing in my front grass with my bare feet and sun gazing. It's gotten pretty simple for me now that I've got my nervous system kind of recalibrated for peace. I just find myself wanting to be in nature and wanting to be in the bare grass. And I do write a lot. Like, I've kind of gotten into poetry, and I haven't shared a ton of it just yet. But I think 2026 is going to be a year where I start to share more of my poetry that I like hand to my partner under the pillow, for the world to kind of feel into a little bit too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. There's so much of you already has poetic nature where we're ready. We're ready.
I think ayahuasca for that, because after my journey to Peru, like something kind of magical happened within me, and like a new language was born.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could save that for another time.
Yeah. 2026 book launch. I'm ready.
Yes.
And I always close with a similar question, which is around you. If you could go back to your teenage self and say, "What's up, little Wayne?" and give him one piece of advice that would help him get to where you are now, land in his wellness, land in his fullest expression, what would that piece of advice be?
I'd say you're brilliant exactly as you are, and trust God to reveal the path.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting with me today and sharing this
bet.
time and just like dropping in with all of your truth and all of your openness. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Will you tell everyone where they can find you or anything that they need to know about your work? So
Yes.
come and book you in a coaching call.
Instagram in my bio, at A Sacred King. All the information's there in my bio. You'll be able to be led to the Shopify as well. And I do have links for coaching, or you can always just DM me as well. A lot of people just, rather DM and
Slide
say,
into your DM.
yeah. So you're welcome to. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Beautiful. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure.